Quick Slants.
We had so much certainty for so long around here. Now a little bit of uncertainty, and we pull out all the gimmicks and the trademarks and all that other foolishness that we'll do. Thomas the Tank Engine Bridge. It's a bridge yet, whatever. Hey, welcome in. Patriots free agency underway. They're not busy, but everybody else is. Let's take the measure of it. We got a game plan. We got a Quick Slants coming right at you. Wait till next year already? I don't know. Rick Spielman, former NFL GM, he's going to join us and tell us whether or not that is the case. The AFC quarterback carousel, it is on. And there is, of course, a poll and your comments and so much, including the Meg-A Hot Take from Meghan Ottolini. But first, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for my slant. And you would have to be an idiot to think the first week of Patriots free agency will look anything like last year. Last year was a once-in-an-era run caused by a confluence of circumstances. The pandemic made the cap drop, the Patriots cleared their finances post-Brady, and they had a roster loaded with holes because of draft picks they peed away. Bill Belichick had to buy his team. He couldn't do that this year, too. But the Patriots standing pat while the rest of the AFC is in an arms race has people forgetting that last year even happened. It did. All those teams that couldn't spend, now they are. Don't be pissed about that. Be pissed, however, that the Patriots had to spend all that dough because they failed to staff those positions in the first place. The Patriots should be embarrassed to hide behind the excuse of going all in during Brady's final run. Not to mention for whisking him out of town, but that's a different story. They should be even more embarrassed by the legion of swings and misses in the draft in the first 3 rounds over the past few years. Just look at the names. Pause. In short, the spending spree was a lot of fun, but don't forget why it happened. At a position like, say, tight end, they didn't do anything to address it. And then, after for years taking a flyer on things, they go get 2 third-rounders in 2020 who weren't very good. So here's what things are. The season ended kind of bad, and since the season ended, the team has actively gotten worse on the field and on the sidelines with coaching staff. They weren't close to Buffalo then, and we're not seeing the gap narrow now. It's March. It's a little early for wait till next year, but I mean, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, Meg.
Hi. Unfortunately, I think you're on to something here. And it's going to be tough for Patriots fans, tough pill for them to swallow because they probably thought they already took their medicine in 2020 a la Cam Newton. But the reality of the situation is it's not just Tom Brady walking away who you had to replace on this roster. And there are no farm teams in the NFL, okay? You have to do it through the draft, and it's going to take time. There's no one season all fixed remedy through free agency, even if you had all the money in the world. But that said, if you're going to move on from Shaq Mason and Kyle Van Noy and free up this cap space, is it too much to ask for a little bit of an addition that moves the needle a little bit here? No, you're not. And it is important to remember that as we do this show right now on a Tuesday, free agency officially isn't a week old. So there is second wave free agency, which is going to dawn on some players. A little newborn free. Yeah, hey, what's up? Oh, there's another free agency coming? So this second wave free agency is all the guys who go, well, I guess I didn't get the big contract. How about a good contract? And now the Patriots can look at guys like, say, for instance, Steven Nelson, or a broken toy like Odell Beckham Jr. Maybe those are players who can come in. They're not done. But I think it's worth bearing in mind that the general mindset of the fan base and media is a realization, Meg, correct me if I'm wrong, that this is not just moving ahead as they were in 2021, but bobbing on the water at best. Well, yeah, because you've moved on from those pieces, it looks like from all appearances the roster is worse off than it was before free agency, especially moving on from somebody like J.C. Jackson, having no answer in the secondary. That said, do you think that there's any anxiety because of what we saw with the movement in the coaching staff, where it started off with all these exits and then just not a lot that came in to backfill that void? The interesting thing about Bill Belichick is that he is decisive and he's self-assured and he's confident. And I don't think that he ever looks at any Everest and sees anything more than Blue Hills. He's confident that he can walk up anything, and he should be. He's got a demonstrated work ethic and a demonstrated resume that shows that he's been able to do it. If I was ownership, however, if I were people who were trying to sell tickets and ads and seats and concessions, I'd be a little more concerned, because there's a drumbeat
that's gone on since 2019 of the team's not getting better. And it's now 2022. And there's certainly, I think, more than ever, a feeling that are they really this far away? And we see these other teams get better. But again, March 22nd.
I think fans want
Happy
to take
spring.
a gondola up that mountain.
Yeah,
That's what they like.
Yeah, look,
Step on, go to skis.
Zing.
Time now for From the Stands. Here's your poll, Tom.
Oh, thanks. The poll was, how do you feel about the Patriots' possibility of a bridge year? That was the metaphorical bridge we used at the beginning. A surprising 59% of you don't really mind that much. I was surprised by that. Good, relax, for God's sake. You're fine. So to me, I thought that was enlightening. So good for you guys being able to keep it all in check. We got any comments on this?
Yeah, let's go to Mike. He says, I've done a 180. Started out being annoyed, disgruntled, but now I'm okay with it. They're a solid team, but there was no way they were matching the top teams this year. It's encouraging to see them move away from fullbacks and also the youth movement at linebacker. Lots of cap next year.
Mike is a fine. It's fine. We'll be fine.
He's already on to next year. Chip says, people need to realize that for us massholes living in other NFL markets like Denver, we need the Patriots to dominate, or we can't continue to be obnoxious to our neighbors. Bridge years are not acceptable.
It is all about us.
And Billy says, wasting a year of a promising young quarterback on a rookie deal is absolutely inexcusable.
Inexcusable.
They need to find out if Jones is the guy or a guy.
Guy. Yeah, so there's a lot going on there in those different things. Don't throw around the guy so easily. Meanwhile, I think that we're looking at a Patriots team that is still trying to find out about what it has in-house itself with some of the players they signed. What will be interesting to see is remind yourself of this too. The Patriots are targeting, in large part, 2023. Andrew Callahan, in your paper, The Herald, did an excellent job of reporting on what the Patriots' proclivities are by talking to some agents who are pointing out that the Patriots are clearing cap space for 2023 in what might be another spending binge and what will be a market that will be open for business because the salary cap's going to rise. Guys like Nelson Aguilar on short-term contracts, those are going to end, and there's going to be plenty of money to spend. Do we have great faith that they're going to spend it wisely and get good return? They got probably a mixed bag last year at best. Your thoughts on that? And then we'll throw it.
Well, you say mixed bag. I think that they hit on a lot of those major areas like Matthew Judon.
Bourne, Judon, Henry.
I am still waiting to see what happens with Jonnu Smith.
Fine.
And I don't want to put too much on him, but he has such a skill set that I would love to see him come through on the second year. Can we give him a second year?
Have to give him a second year, and you have to put too much on him. All right, coming up after the break, we got Rick Spielman. The guy was great. We talked for 35 minutes on the Patriots Talk podcast, and we cut out about 8 of it right now, and we're going to serve it up to you where he gives great intel on the Patriots. Going to talk you off the ledge. Stay tuned. Hey, what's up? Check this out, will you? In the offseason, the Patriots have done this. They got 3 guys in the additions category. Nobody's going to shake your boots. Subtraction, significant. Re-signings, also significant. Some of those guys they really need around. Some of those guys are Band-Aids and insurance policies. But be that as it may, the Patriots have had a heck of a lot more going out than they've had coming in. We speak with Rick Spielman, longtime NFL GM and a guy who was with the Minnesota Vikings since 2006, about all the moves the Patriots have and have not made in their direction for 2022.
They're in an interesting spot as well, and it's almost cyclical. And I think people here in New England are having a hard time, myself included, media included, getting their brains around the down cycle, rebuild cycle that the Patriots may be in right now after 20 years of avoiding kind of a profound rebuild. If Denver's built to win, they have some really good players offensively and defensively. The Patriots right now are in the midst of a reboot post-Brady. They spent a lot of money and they made a lot of aggressive moves like Denver would have made or the Rams would have made to add players in the course of a season, but they haven't drafted really well. It's beyond argument, so we don't have to really tiptoe around that, but they're not in a position right now maybe where they would be shopping for top-of-the-line players.
Well, the only thing I would disagree with you on, if I can do so with all due respect.
Please do so.
Last year was the first year that I can recall that New England was very aggressive in free agency. I think that first day of free agency, I mean, they signed a pass rusher. They signed a couple. I think they signed if I recall, maybe 12 or 13 total players to come in post Tom Brady. Then they went ahead and drafted their future quarterback in Matt Jones. So the one thing that you have to remember, they weren't as aggressive this year because of all the contracts and all the players that they went out and did last year. So the other thing to also take into account is most of these guys did contribute to New England last year. But usually, just like rookies, some of these UFAs that come in, they really hit stride in their second year after they've especially the New England way and the way Coach Belichick runs it. I mean, you have to adapt because it's been so successful. So a lot of those guys coming in have never experienced that way before, which has won multiple Super Bowls. And so they're adjusting the first year there. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of these guys that they signed last year excel going into their second year, along with the rookie quarterback.
And I wholly agree with that. I think Jonnu Smith is kind of the linchpin to their 2022 season. He's a player that they didn't have a lot of cap and base salary investment in last year. Now it's really big, and the next year after it's really big. He's the Swiss Army knife that you hope to do some things around. He didn't contribute much. So boom, it's him. Aguilar, they have a trap door from Aguilar. They hit on Bourne. They've already hit on Jacoby Myers. So, I think they hit mostly on Judon. I think
and they got a pretty good running back crew too.
100%.
Yeah.
But what's weird is, and this is what's driving people back crap out here. Why would you move on from Shaq Mason and Kyle Van Noy when they were two of your more productive 2021 contributors? I think people are going, I don't have a problem with the lack of shopping in 2022, because your point is excellent and I agree with it. And I think a lot of folks do. It's the big picture of, are you getting better or are you getting worse? And it doesn't feel like in this immediate, as much as they got better in 2021, there's a feeling of treading water or maybe sinking under.
Right. And a lot of people outside, including the media, okay, I don't know what the date is. Is it March 21st?
We'll look at a March 2-1, first day of spring, I think.
Okay. Actually, it was yesterday, I believe, but don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's argumentative.
But I don't think the NFL season starts till September.
Oh, Bill loves doing that. Bill loves doing it. I don't think we have.
But there's a lot of things that can still happen between now and then. But I also, not fully understanding how every contract is written and how they could potentially move money out. And I'll get into your cap question here in a little bit. But they must feel pretty confident in some of the guys that didn't play. They're going to have to step up and fill roles. I mean, they lost Thuney last year as well up there on the offensive. There was another critical piece. But they must feel pretty confident. They must feel pretty confident in some of these guys in the draft. And who knows where the secondary market goes or potential other trades that will happen between now and the draft. Usually, once you get past the draft, that's going to be most of your moves that you have made to improve your roster going into the following season. So there's a lot of time left. I mean, everybody that didn't get into the arms race, or you want to call it the heavyweight boxing match out in the AFC West, it was like interesting to watch that Denver does a Russell Wilson trade. Then the Chargers go and get J.C. Jackson, and then the Raiders counter, and they're all countering each other, trying to get caught up with the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think that you have to be a little patient because there's no question about Coach Belichick's track record and the success that he has had there. And I truly believe all of a sudden in one offseason, you don't all of a sudden go from smart to dumb. But I know
agree.
How quickly people are to judge that as well.
Talk the fans and media off the ledge, because Bill doesn't really bother to do it in large part because he doesn't have to do it, because in large part he can look and say scoreboard. But
right.
Explain how you used to approach that. And are we disloyal or unappreciative to say, hey, what the hell's going on down there?
I think the biggest thing is maybe the fans of the New England Patriots, who have a great fan base up there, great media coverage, maybe a little disappointed the way the season ended last year. I believe they lost 3 out of the 4. It wasn't a very competitive game and a wild card game against the Buffalo Bills, which is a an arch nemesis now in that division. So fans sometimes have that bad taste in their mouth, and that carries on through the offseason. But internally, sometimes you just have to let everybody say what they're saying on the outside, knowing that you have a plan in place, that you're going to stick to that plan. You're going to be disciplined on how you're going to get your team better going into the 2022 season. And we're not going to judge on where we are today. We're going to judge on where we are when we get on the field and when we have to win ball games on Sundays next year.
You people feel better now that you heard Rick? Good. For much more of that conversation, where he continues to make you feel better, check out an all-new Patriots Talk podcast. Hear what Rick has to say about Mac Jones, whether or not the salary cap is actually crap. You can find it on your favorite podcasting app or, of course, on YouTube. Coming up after the break. What is this? What is this? Oh, it might be time for the Meg-A Hot Take. Also, Quickfire with all the quarterback carousel. But come back for the Meg-A Hot Take. See you in a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Meg-A Hot Take. Hit it!
Patriots fans, you may be feeling a little low, gloomy, looking around free agency and saying, what about us?
What about me?
I'm going to toss a classic phrase your way from the book of Irish optimism. It could be worse. Sure, you want a big receiver deal, or maybe you would have just settled for Pro Bowler J.C. Jackson to come back, but at least you didn't squander your stud quarterback's rookie season away to a guy who didn't know who number 99 Aaron Donald was. At least you're not one of these teams puking on their shoes after riding the quarterback carousel. This free agency has been boring, but remember, sometimes a free agency splash is really a belly flop. Do you really want a deal like this?
Ooh.
I don't think so. Welcome to my hell. Let's go to Quickfire.
She rests her case. You are the best. Ladies and gentlemen, let us go to Quickfire right now. You make a great point, Meg. And here's your full screen. What do we got for quarterbacks on the Patriots schedule,
Look
Meg-A?
at all these quarterbacks on the Patriots schedule in 2022. It starts with Deshaun Watson.
Probably.
Goes down the bottom to Zach Wilson and Rudolph and Trubisky. A little bit easier down there, but quite a mountain for your defense.
Do you know how many people are looking at and saying, who's Rudolph Trubisky?
Mr. Rudolph Trubisky.
Yeah, well, that's not, I mean, there are portions of it which are not a murderer's row, but there's a lot on there that would give you pause. And the Patriots right now, defensively, the way they are comprised, they lost their shutdown corner. They'll have a plan. We know that. And they still need to be better on the defensive line and with pass rush. But to me, you have to be concerned about the Patriots' direction, especially in light of the close to last season. So the AFC has gotten better, but in my eyes, don't worry about the top of the conference. Worry about the division. Worry about Buffalo, right, Meg?
Yeah, I mean, well, what I'm worried about is that it's not just guys who have been hanging around or switched teams like Russell Wilson going to Denver, but then there's a lot of young quarterbacks coming up that are just going to be hanging around for years to come. But speaking of years to come, let's go to the draft, because Mel Kiper has a mock draft where he has Alabama receiver Jameson Williams going to the Patriots in the first round with the 21st pick. Do you see that as a realistic pick? Is it something you'd like to see, Tom?
Well, he's coming off a significant injury and may not be available at all in his rookie season. Jameson Williams is one of those Jamar Chase types. He's long, he's skinny, he's explosive, he's dynamic, he's from Alabama, and he can make plays for you. The question will be whether or not the Patriots are good with giving a redshirt year to a wide receiver, and whether or not, to be frank, you folks are confident that the Patriots know what they're looking at when it comes to wide receivers in the draft. Because annually, when they've plucked receivers in the draft, they've done poorly. So while it might seem sacrilege, the backstory to it and the history is that they don't do a good job drafting them. So why get a guy who's already busted?
Do you think it would be a full redshirt year? Obviously, he had that ACL injury in the national championship game, but he's a young guy. They say that rehab can go anywhere from 6 months to 9 months. And would Bill Belichick even throw him into the season without having training camp, hypothetically?
It's a great question. Phil Perry mentioned earlier today that Malcolm Mitchell was a player the Patriots drafted out of Georgia who had an injury history, but he was still able to take part in the spring. He did contribute eventually. Another guy, Taylor Price, all he did was miss some time because I believe it was Ohio University stayed late through a portion of the spring practices. He never recovered from what he missed initially. So to me, something has to give at the wideout position when it comes to development.
A lot of unknowns. Let's go on to Trent. You're back. Trent Brown re-signs with the Patriots after going out and seeing a little bit of what's in free agency. Mac Jones was really happy about this. Do you think that this is what the Patriots needed to get that O-line solid?
They need him to be on the field, and they've paid him in a way that will reward him handsomely if he is. $22 million is the reported total over 2 years, which is great. $11 million a year for a guy who's only played half of his games over the past 3 seasons. So he stays healthy, he's out there, he's going to make coin. If he doesn't, he's not going to. The Patriots need him out there, especially with the departure of Shaq Mason and Ted Karras and Isaiah Wynn heading toward free agency after this season.
Always the closing.
Yes.
Matt Judon has picked up a new role recruiting, apparently on Twitter, in this free agency. What do you make of this all-out effort that he's given?
Well, I mean, it's a full-court press. Anybody who's not nailed down, he will tweet at and try and solicit.
OBJ today.
Not just OBJ. In the afternoon on Tuesday, he quoted Josh Gordon. I mean, come on, can you do a little fact checking on Josh Gordon's history here in New England? Wasn't that great?
The guy knows the system, Tom. The guy knows the system. He could slide right back in.
Be that as it may, I'm not sure whether it's cringeworthy or laudable that he is doing this, but I now know who replaced Dave Ziegler in the personnel department.
Really quick, Tom can't quit. Of course, Brady's back in the league. I think that you should be happy about this, right? I'm happy to see more games from him, but maybe we didn't need the whole Instagram tour.
That's all right. Tom can't quit. He can't quit. I can't quit him. Nobody can quit anything, and we can't quit bringing you the best football coverage in New England. We're going to be at the owners' meetings this week. Phil Perry's Next Pats podcast, my podcast, Meg doing all the things that Meg does. We'll see you next week from West Palm.